Hello, everyone, and good evening. Welcome to this season's Art on the Atlanta BeltLine Artist Information Session for the 2023-2024 season. My name is Miranda Kyle. I'm the Arts and Culture Program Manager for Atlanta BeltLine, Inc. We are in person. We are live on Facebook. We are live on Zoom. We're live on Instagram, and we want to say hello to our satellite location at Peters Street Station. Hi, guys. Thanks for being there and being so awesome. So if you are not here tonight, that's a shame because obviously there's lots of ways to plug in and watch, but this message and information session will be recorded so you can refer to it later, as well as keep it up as you move through this process of applying to Art on the BeltLine. Along with me here representing the BeltLine, I have several colleagues who've helped to make this possible. To my right is Sabrina. I will let her introduce herself.
Good evening. I am Sabrina Clark, the procurement manager with Atlanta BeltLine, and I'm glad to be here in person.
It's really exciting. We're super excited about this. Behind the scenes, we've got Chris Langley, we've got Brittany Brewster, we've got Ebony Hillsman, and tonight's producer and community engagement extraordinaire, Rashida Williamson. So without further ado, we're going to get into the presentation. If you have questions, you can drop them into the Q&A, and we'll get to those at the end of the slideshow. All right, next slide. All right, a little bit of background because this is important because everybody is always asking me, well, how much money do you guys have for art? And the answer is we could always have more. But this is the breakout for how we get funding for Art on the Atlanta BeltLine and for arts and cultural events around the corridor. So Atlanta BeltLine, Inc. is who we all work for. We're the quasi-governmental arm, the implementation agency for Atlanta BeltLine, and we are charged with building trails and parks, supporting transit, and implementing public art around the trail, and doing lots and lots of community engagement like what we're doing tonight. And so our partner organization is Atlanta BeltLine Partnership. They're our sister organization. They're our 501c3 arm, and they do a lot of the philanthropic fundraising for us. So Art on the BeltLine is funded with both TAD dollars from our tax allocation district, philanthropic money, as well as grant money. So a little bit from everywhere. Next slide, please. Most people, when they think of the BeltLine, think of the East Side Trail. That's highly visible. Lots of people take their selfies out there on the East Side Trail. But the BeltLine will eventually be a 22-mile loop that encircles all of the inner neighborhoods of Atlanta. So I love this map because it's just so beautiful. Its orientation is a little odd, though, so the north is actually down here at the bottom of the screen. So we have about 13 to 15 curatable miles right now. So these are sections of the trail that are either completed or in an interim state that are safe for us to site artwork and programming alongside. This is really important to know because the BeltLine moves through 45 distinct neighborhoods with their own cultural identities and their own histories, and we want to spread the love of our creativity all around the corridor and uplift and support local creatives in the neighborhoods where they work and where they reside. And so as you're thinking through the process of your application and how you want to bring your art, your creative ideas to the corridor, keep in mind that while this is an international call, this is a distinctly Atlanta space. And so I encourage you to do your research. Next slide, please. All right, let's talk a little bit about the exhibition categories and where you may fall in that universe, because there's a lot of different opportunities when you want to participate in Art on the BeltLine for where you can plug yourself into. It is really important to remember that this season we will be particularly uplifting the history of hip hop in the United States, but particularly in Atlanta. This is Hip Hop 50's birthday, but in Atlanta, we're also celebrating 40 years of Atlanta's influence on culture, both locally and around the world. So as you're thinking through your process, please keep that in mind, that we will be looking for and uplifting those narratives, concepts, and stories this year. So, we'll be asking for several different elements as part of your application. We'll go into those in a little more detail, Sabrina will, towards the end of our presentation, but things you'll definitely need to have is your cover letter. So this is gonna speak to like what category you wanna apply for. Are you a muralist? Are you applying for the residency program? Are you a dancer or a musician? We need to know what you wanna do in that cover letter and what category you're applying for. You will list that category from the RFP in that cover letter. You can submit more than one proposal in the same category and more than one proposal across multiple categories. They just have to be separate submissions. So if you have like 3 amazing mural ideas, we would love to see them all. You just have to make sure you're submitting 3 separate applications because they'll all be evaluated separately. Next slide, please. So for muralists, so it's not just muralists, but if you're a painter, if you're a style writer, if you call yourself a graffiti artist, if you're a painting collective, if you are a portrait artist and you've never done murals before, but you really want to, this is the category that you'll apply for. What is really important here is that if you're interested in doing murals and you've never done one before, make sure you list somebody on your team in your application who has. Because part of the application will ask for a portfolio, and you'll want to make sure that it's represented in this portfolio, that someone you're working with, even if it isn't you, knows what they're doing when it comes to murals. Importantly, this year, in the next few slides, we're going to be talking about the locations and some of the thematic elements we'll be looking for. Next slide. So our first location is we're partnering with Side Saddle, which is a forthcoming business on the Southside Trail. They have generously donated 2 walls to us this year. And so pictured here is the wall that'll be facing the BeltLine. This is a cast concrete and cinder block wall, smooth surface, and it is 25 feet tall by about 24 feet wide with 1 window in the lower right-hand corner. On the side wall, it's a little bit smaller, but with similar dimensions, but more fenestration, so more spaces for windows. Some of the themes that we're looking to explore with this particular location are going to be the history of Black cowboys in America, particularly in Atlanta, and the history of women and horses. Side Saddle seeks to specifically uplift these historical narratives in equestrian culture, and so we'll be looking at that for this location. Next slide. All right, this one's a doozy. I do not recommend applying to do this one by yourself. This needs to be a team effort because this is a real big bridge. All right, so this is Park Avenue Drive Northeast. If you've ever been in Piedmont Park or you've been on the northeast section of the BeltLine Trail above Piedmont Park, that's this bridge. So you're looking at, it's about 250 feet all the way down. But it's a lot of odd architecture and not a lot of surfaces. It's mostly pillars and columns. And so this is a unique location because you'll have 2 abutments to paint, and I'm being flagged by our producer. Hold on one moment, please. We're experiencing technical difficulties.